Okay, I realized this was a video I'd not done, and I saw a post over on a DP review where people were talking and debating about medium format versus XT3, for example. And then a couple of people posted that, well, wouldn't it be nice if we had identical images from same position, same field of view between both cameras? So I posted those. These are all straight out of camera. The links below are for the untouched RAW files. There's 3 sets and also two. I have the untouched JPEGs if you'd like. This is set 1. This image, here's the other one. This is set 2, and this is set 3. Now we're not looking at exposure, we're not looking at dynamic range. We're looking at what sort of resolution we have for printing. A1 versus A2 versus standard 8 by 10. Of course, so we're talking about posting on Instagram. We're not debating posting on Instagram. Obviously, even a cell phone is overkill for Instagram, which is unfortunately where most people post their images. There are variables. Let's actually go over most of those variables. Now, this is the shot from the GFX 50S. Now, you're going to say when you download the raw files, well, this is from an XT30, not an XT3. Well, the XT30 is the exact same sensor, exact same image processing. I used a 23mm on the XT30. I stood in the exact same spot, didn't even move an inch. Like I said, we're not talking about exposure here. So we have a 35mm field of view on the XT30, and we have a 35mm field of view on the GFX 50S using the 45mm lens, 45mm times 0.78, 35mm field of view, 23mm times 1.5, 35mm equivalent field of view. Now, if I go back and forth between the XT30 or XT3, makes no difference, and that of the GFX camera, you'll see something important here. Yes, look at the top and the bottom. Yes, we have a different aspect ratio. GFX cameras with GFX 50S, 50R, and of course GFX 100 are a different aspect ratio than that of the XT3, XT30, every crop sensor Fujifilm camera. Obviously another variable is of course how sharp the 23mm X mount lens is versus that of the 45. Both of those lenses are actually extremely sharp. Micro contrast tonality between the two is somewhat, well, it's actually radically different. The 45 is much better in that arena, but we're not looking at dynamic range, we're not looking at exposure, and we're not looking at micro contrast between these two. We're just looking at what we would encounter if printing 8 by 10 versus A1 versus A2, because there's another huge YouTube channel talking about this stuff, and of course he gave you no examples and he drew no conclusions, so his video is completely useless. And people were debating this over on DP review in the Fujifilm forum, and of course everybody's bickering back and forth. And of course, you know, everything is also too about viewing distance. I mean, there are roadside billboards that are obviously absolutely enormous that have portraits of people that were taken with a crop sensor camera, but you're viewing them from 100, 150 yards away. But let's take a look at, let's just jump right to the nitty gritty here. Now this is the XT30. I picked the best image out of several different samples. Here you can see things starting to fall away. Now, if you're not looking at this video or the raw files when you download them at least a halfway decent monitor, because a pet peeve of mine is that you invest all these high-end lenses and these high-end cameras, and you got a crap display. You're looking at your images on a crap display, a non-retina display. I don't care if it's Apple, I don't care if it's Windows, I don't give a damn. But, you know, it just mind-blowing that someone would have a high-end camera, high-end lenses, and not at least have some sort of retina equivalent or better display. So, you know, that probably should be your next upgrade. That and, of course, display calibration. So now there's the XT30. We're looking at this at 200%. Now let's go over at 200% on the GFX. Let's go back and forth. Okay, GFX. XT30 GFX, oh yes, oh yes. I'm going to go in at 300%. Yeah. And the interesting thing on this is that the pixel pitch is tighter. You have more translational information on the XT3/XT30 sensor, both the same sensor. Also, too, it's a much more advanced sensor. It's a backside illuminated sensor. So the quote-unquote old sensor on this medium format GFX 51 megapixel, yeah, well, yeah, old sensor my ass. That old sensor, as I've said over and over and over again for the past year and a half, will still blow the balls off of any full frame or crop sensor. The reason why is two words: medium format. Yes, girlfriend, repeat after me these two words of medium format. Like I said, these are untouched. I've not even edited these one iota in Capture One here. Not a single iota. So let's go back down to 200%. Actually, about 100%. Actually, let's fit it to the screen. Here's set number 2. This is XT30. And this is a GFX. Now, for an 8x10 print, I'm looking at this in a 5K Retina display and a 27-inch iMac. You know, these are phenomenal. Even if I come in at 100%, and wow, yeah, yeah, not super significant. However, I do have a lot more shadow recovery on the GFX. Let's actually do a little bit of shadow recovery, like on the bush here. Let's say, yeah, let's tone down our highlights a little bit. Yeah, let's zoom out a little, highlights a little. Yeah, a bit more shadow recovery. Nah. Yeah, I know I'm kind of talking to myself. Okay, that was on the GFX. And this is a much more modern sensor. We still have a lot of shadow recovery on the XT30. 48. Yeah, let's look at it at 100% between these two. 100% on the XT30. 100% on the GFX. Yeah, here's where I got about 150%. Yeah, XT30, GFX. Kind of looking down here, which is my focus point on both of these. Very, very similar. This is where the much newer sensor with the BSI sensor and more translational information per square millimeter sensor. Yes, yes, yes. Very nice. And here's the third set. If we come in at 200% on the same rock, and 200%, this is the, actually let's go in at 300%. This would make one enormous print, by the way. Enormous print. That's the XT30, and this is the GFX. This is the quote-unquote old sensor. Yeah, not even a BSI sensor. More tonality, more dynamic range. Also, too, the other variable, you see how much better the GFX looks. Exact same position, by the way. Okay, same field of view. My feet didn't even move an inch. The other variable, and this is what people always see, how much more information we have. Not on this one. This is the XT30 shot. Now let's go over to the GFX shot. Oh, way better. You see that crack in the rock, for example? All this down here. Let's do a little bit of shadow recovery. Yeah, a little bit of shadow recovery on the XT30. Yeah, falls apart. Falls apart fast. This old sensor does way better on shadow recovery on these unlit side rocks. The other variable that we have here that everybody fails to take into consideration is that it doesn't matter. Listen closely because you're going to miss it. It doesn't matter if I'm using a medium format sensor, a full frame sensor, or a crop sensor. All I'm talking about is getting the same field of view in these shots, but a 23 millimeter is a 23 millimeter is a 23 millimeter. And with the same field of view, I'm still zoomed in closer. I'm optically closer. Okay, I'm using a 23 millimeter here and a 45 millimeter here. Significant difference, right? Almost twice. 23 millimeter. Now you notice, other than the aspect ratio, looking at the top and the bottom borders, okay, this is XT30. Like I said, it doesn't make a difference between XT3 and XT30. Same sensor, same image processor. Different aspect ratio here than we have on the GFX. But, I have the same field of view, but I'm optically closer. Let me repeat those two words closely because people are going to get confused. Optically closer, because I'm using a 45 millimeter for that 35 millimeter field of view here, the GFX, and I'm using a 23 millimeter here for that 35 millimeter equivalent field of view on the XT30 or XT3. So this actually is the primary quote-unquote medium format look, right? Your feet are glued to the same spot. You are optically closer with the same field of view. Ignore the aspect ratio, top-bottom borders. Same field of view, right? Same. Both of them are 35 millimeter equivalent field of view. Yes, yes, yes. Like I said, all these JPEGs are on my Flickr site, untouched, absolutely untouched. And all the raw files are in the links below. All 6 images, 3 images for the XT30 and 3 images for the GFX. Okay, a huge difference here at 200% on the XT30 versus 200% on the. I mean, look at that tonality. I mean, just everything falls apart. Also, too importantly, when you go to enlarge an image from a medium format, we're not talking about megapixels here. We're talking about something that transcends megapixels. Medium format image to get the exact same size print requires less enlargement. Right. Yes. So, right, XT30 and GFX. Oh, damn, what a difference. Now, we're not talking about the purple fringing we can see on the highlights here. Yeah, or it's very slightly, it's actually about a third of a stop overexposed. We're not even looking at that. Ooh, much better. How could it be better? I kept hearing this from all these knuckleheads on all these stupid YouTube channels and these stupid photography. That's an old sensor, and that GFX camera's got an old sensor. Yeah, that old sensor still blows the ass off of any current crop sensor or full frame sensor. Oh, yes it does. Yes it does. Shadow recovery, dynamic range. Oh yes. Girlfriend, did you just think I was just like saying that for the hell of saying it? Anyway, you take a look at the images yourself. I hope you like this. This is what people were asking for. And here it is, right? Images are in the links below. Thank you so much for watching. And wait for it. Fujifilm. That's right, girlfriend. Fujifilm.